Hey everyone, Mark Price here at devslopes.com, and today we are covering a very important principle. It's basically how web requests work, how the internet works in regards to making web requests. We're not going to talk about how the internet really works. This isn't a philosophical lesson about privacy and internet connecting to all kinds of junk. It's just about how to talk to web servers. So very important though. In fact, until I actually became a web developer later in my career, and I did this just for fun to learn new things, until I understood what was really going on behind the scenes, I was never really great at interfacing with servers on my iPhone apps. So this is a very important principle. So let's look at it like this. So you've got a phone. Okay, here's your iPhone, right? Looking great. Here's your cool Android phone. You know, not as cool as iPhone, but still pretty cool. And then you've got this busted up Windows phone that no one ever uses. Okay, it can still make web requests. Oh, Windows. You guys are like, oh, you jerk. I can say what I want and you have to watch. Okay, so let's pretend these are clients, because that's what they are. These are clients. This could also be a computer, right? A browser. So these are all clients. Now, in the past, websites used to be very static, right? Like front end, you would just have a website. Before apps even existed on iPhone, mobile apps, you'd have a website, have static data on it. It wouldn't do much. It would all be living there. But as the days are going by, websites are starting to think more. And then mobile apps came out and it's like, well, how do we get our data talking to our mobile apps? And how do we get this all working? Well, nowadays, okay, everything is in the cloud. And when I say cloud, meaning virtual servers everywhere, and it allows us the ability to have our clients talk to our servers so we can have instant data access across all platforms. So over here is where we have our server. This is our cloud server, okay? And we got a server in here. Okay, and connected to the cloud is a database. It could be living on the same server, or it could be on a different server, but basically the database is what's going to permanently store data. And so we've got these clients that need data. So how does it work? Well, you're probably thinking, well, obviously it talks to the server and sends back. And it does, but there's a little bit more going on than that. So with that in mind, though, that is the basic flow. The clients talk to the server, and the server, write this down here, and the server sends data back, okay? And that's how we typically communicate with devices and on the web. And basically, these requests and this discussion today, we're not talking about other topics. We're just going to assume that this is how it's done because it mostly is. We're going to talk about HTTP. These all use HTTP protocol. Now, you've probably seen this in your browser, like when you're typing in HTTP : / or HTTPS, which is secure. You've been using them forever, and what it means is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, okay? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. I'm not going to write it out. You can look it up online if you want to read what it stands for. But basically, it's a protocol that clients and servers obey in order to pass data back and forth. So for instance, on Google Chrome, all right, they are obeying the HTTP protocol, which allows data to go from your browser to the server and vice versa, etc. There's web frameworks that do that. Your clients too, like iOS, it is also obeying the HTTP protocol. So in iOS, we use a class called NSURL session. Okay, and this NSURL session allows you to make web requests to servers. And so iOS had to implement this protocol. Android had to do the exact same thing, and so did Windows. So all of these platforms, for the code bases to be able to talk to servers, they implement this protocol. And more or less, what you do in a request is you just pass data back and forth. Okay, so data goes back and forth, back and forth. And so let's talk a little bit about a request. Okay, so you've got a web request. I'm just going to call it web request. That's kind of the common term. So let's say that we are making a kitten app, you know, for all of those kitten videos. So, you know, cute little kitten app. Okay, he's a happy cat. Okay, we're making a kitten app. And we need to, so the user over here on this iPhone or any of these devices, any of these clients, what they've done is they have added a picture of their cat. And we want it to save on the server, so next time they load the app, it pulls it from the server, and it's always there. So let's say that the request looks like this. And these requests are going to be in JSON, okay? You can also use XML, but pretty much the whole internet is moving to JSON. And so basically, let's say we've got a cat object here, and it has a name. So this is an object called name. It's in quotes. Those are quotes. And the name is Lulu. Okay. There's a comma. And then it's got an image URL. Okay. So maybe your iPhone uploaded it to Amazon and it stored the URL here. Now we got to send it to the server. So we got an image URL, and this is http://whatever.com. And what else? And then maybe a description, right? We'll just say DESC, and this is my favorite cat, blah, 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 blah. So what we've done here is the user added a new cat. So from your perspective, they clicked the button, they took a picture, they clicked the button and said, hey, save my cat. And so it took this request here, and in our code, we wrote some type of code to transfer data into JSON, which you're going to be seeing how to do, which is really cool. And so basically, we've got this text now, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So we are just transferring text. For the most part, we're transferring text across. So our client, our iPhone here, it makes this request, and this request of JSON goes to the server. And the server then receives it and says, okay, this object looks good, the data looks good, let's go ahead and store it in here. Okay, and by the way, this is called a post request when you're posting something new. Okay, so we've just posted something to the server. Now, let's say that we just loaded the app and we want to get a list of the top cat videos. Well, those have been posted on the server. So now we just did this post request to post a new one. Let's take our iPhone app. Let me erase some wrong color. Black and black, not a good combination. There we go. Let's just change you to white. Minor detail here. And there we go. Okay. And I'm just going to erase this just to clear us up some space. Okay. And so let's say we need to get a list of cat videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another request to the server. Okay. So we're making a request. And what does a request look like? Well, what we talked about here is just the stuff we posted. So this stuff right here is called the body. Okay, we made a post request and we pass in the body, but a request has more than that. So if I'm making a get request, okay, this is called a get request. We're going to get stuff from the server. And on a get request, you actually don't usually put a body. What you usually do is your request comes with a few things. It comes with a URL. So every request will have a URL. Okay. You might have what's called a header. So let's say, or headers, one or more headers. Let's say that you can't make requests unless you're signed in. So sometimes it's typical in the header part of the HTTP request to pass in, like an authorization, an auth token. So basically, or your username and password. So basically you say, hey, I'm allowed to make this request, because maybe sometimes on a server you don't want anyone to get any data. If it's a bank account, for instance, do you want anyone logging into your account and getting your data? No. So in your header you might have some type of password or authentication token to say, hey, this is who I am. So you make a request, and in this case it's a GET request, and so the server takes it and they say, okay, yeah, this guy's authorized. In our case, in some of the apps we're building, we're not going to worry about authorization. They're just open APIs. That let us get data from it. So basically, we made a GET request. The server says, yeah, it's good. And then guess what? It sends back what's called a response. Okay? So the server sends back a response, and then the client can handle the response. And that's what we're going to do on our apps. You get the JSON back, that response. It's JSON in most cases. And then you parse it, and then you use it as data in your application. So those are some basic server communications right there. Now, let's go ahead and just erase all this for a quick moment and show a few more principles here. This is really important for you to understand. Okay, so we talked about a couple of operations, okay, and let's talk about it a little more. Those operations are kind of known as a principle called CRUD, and if you don't know what it means, means create, read, update, and delete. Okay, these are the common operations you're going to perform on data. And in other words, create is post, read is get, update is put, and delete is delete. So these are the common terms you're going to be seeing. So when you post something, you're posting something new. Okay, so post something new. When you're getting something, you're just retrieving. Okay, and when you're putting something, you're updating. So you're taking existing data and changing it. And when you're deleting, it's gone, baby. Okay, that's an exclamation point. All right, so those are the typical requests you're going to make: is post, get, put, and delete. You're posting to a server new things. You're retrieving things from the server. You're either updating or deleting things. That's very typical of most applications. Those are the operations you're going to be performing. In our case, like on the Pokemon app, we're going to be doing only GET requests. A lot of apps do. In fact, a lot of apps you may only be doing GET requests, and a lot of apps you'll be doing POST requests and stuff as well too. And so basically, how it works is it's to recap what we've already talked about is you'll make, here's your client and here's your server. Okay, this is server, this is client. So the client will always make some type of request, and the server in most cases will always give a response. So you've got a response and you've got a request. Okay, and they both, the response and the request, they abide by the HTTP protocol. Okay, HTTP. You don't have to worry about what's going on under the scenes with HTTP. It's very complex. A bunch of big, huge companies and individuals and thought leaders in the world sit down and say, what does the internet need to be? And then they create standards, and this protocol gets modified occasionally. And so basically, all the clients adhere to it. So if they didn't, you could create your own protocol and do whatever you want, but no one's going to use it. Chrome has to adopt it. Your iPhone app has to adopt it. It doesn't make sense to build your own. And so you make a request. If it was a post request, it could have a body. Okay. It could have headers. Remember, the body is what you send up to the server, that JSON. So if you're posting a new thing, you're going to pass it JSON to the body. A response, a response kind of has a body too. In most cases, you send back a body of data. Hey, for instance, a GET request. Say, hey, I want all the cat videos. So it sends back a list of JSON full of cat videos, and that's how it works. It's not too bad. When you look at it from this visual perspective, you just make requests to the server and they come back, and then you parse the data, etc. So really cool stuff. In fact, what we can do here is just demonstrate a little bit more how it works. So if I close out of this here, okay, let's get out of Photoshop, and let's go ahead and open up a browser. All right, what happens when I go to google.com? Okay. Now owned by Alphabet. If you haven't read the news, Google is no longer Google. Well, it is, but it isn't. And so google.com, you're like, okay, what are you showing me? This is the thing I do every single day. Well, yes. So something interesting here. You just made a GET request. So your browser, Google Chrome, it just made a GET request to Google, and Google sent back HTML. You're like, wait, what are you talking about? Well, you want to see something really cool? I'm opening my terminal, Command Space Terminal. Okay, you can see it over here on the right-hand side. Let's make it extra big. Here's something interesting. If I type in curl, google.com, curl is a Mac command to make web requests. So in the case of the browser, the client is this browser, and in this case, the client is my terminal. If I curl google.com, look at this. That's interesting. Let me do it better. Let's curl the actual HTTPS www.google.com. You're like, whoa, so look at this. It sent me back HTML. So what's interesting is your server sends back data, and that's all that's happening here on Chrome. The difference is Chrome knows how to handle HTML. So the server sends back HTML, says do what you want with it. And so Chrome knows how to handle it because it's a browser. My server, my terminal, does not know what to do with all this HTML. It sent it back, but it can't do anything with it because the terminal is not a browser. So they're both clients though, and they both made the exact same request. That is really cool. So servers can send back whatever they want. And so in this case, it sent back HTML. Really, really cool. So if we go back to our Postman, if I launch Postman here, okay. Let's give it a second here to think. And this has a Star Wars API in it, so http swapi.co/API/planet/1. If I want to pull a GET request and click send, okay, it gives me data. Now, this is also a client. Postman, its own client. Whoever's making the request is a client. So here, we did a GET request. We hit an API. This API sent us back JSON, and there it is. So we just made a GET request. Pretty cool stuff, okay? This is raw format. I just clicked the raw button. This is what it'll look like when you actually get it. We just, we made it look pretty. And let's see what happens if we try. I'm going to click the reset button. If we try and load up Google here, https google.com, and I click send. So it's like, okay, well there's the HTML that I got back just in my terminal. So same exact thing, but if I click preview, it has its own little browser thing where it kind of previews it here. And so anyway, point being is Postman is a client, your web browser is a client, your iPhone's a client, your Android's a client, anything that's making a request to the server is a client. All that's happening is you're making requests and the server's sending things back. And that is web requests. That's how it works. So when you're digging into stuff, just know there's no magic going on. It's just JSON in most cases being passed back and forth. You can grab values out of it. I can click this one here to reload my last request. You can grab values out of it, the name, rotation, all these things are key values. This is an array. You're going to be using JSON pretty much in most of your applications. So that's web requests. That's how it works. You're going to see it in action as we go along here. But if you ever have any question on how it works, you can refer back to this video and know that this is a core principle. And if you can understand this, if you can put a lot of thought into this and really get it down, you're going to be ahead of a lot of the people who are just coming out of school. By the way, if you do this course and you do all of these things, you're going to be way ahead of people who are getting out of computer science degrees because they come out without practical knowledge. They're still teaching C++ at degrees in universities. Do you know who uses C++? Like video game programmers and NASA. So if you're not planning on being a game programmer and not planning on working at NASA, why are you going to learn C++? So anyway, very important stuff. Learn these concepts, get them down. This is Mark Price at devslopes.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. And remember to get your free live help, go to devslopes.com and click on chat room. I'm there all the time, as well as a huge community of other students.